इंटरेस्टिंग गैदरिंग, बहुत से बच्चे इकट्ठे बैठे हैं. So मैं ये देख रहा था कि इसमें से कितने लोग आगे जाके अपने अपना स्टार्टअप चलाएंगे या स्टार्टअप ज्वाइन करेंगे. So let's start with show of hand in this one section which is not visible from this dais. So I'll just move around to see. कितने लोग आप में से जाके एक स्टार्टअप चालू करना चाहते हैं immediately after college? Immediately after college, okay, hands down. 2-4 साल एक्सपीरियंस के बाद, 5-6 साल 7 साल एक्सपीरियंस के बाद. अच्छा, कितने हैं जिन्होंने सोच लिया कि हमें ना स्टार्टअप में जाना है ना अपना स्टार्टअप करना है? ओके, गुड, वेरी नाइस. नहीं, ऐसे लोग भी जरूरी हैं यार, जरूरी है. गुड. और एक स्टार्टअप को करने के लिए सबसे पहले व्हाट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग यू नीड? एनीवन? मनी, आइडिया, प्लानिंग, कम अगेन, स्किल्स. स्किल्स तो दोस्तों में मिल जाएगा, बहुत सारे स्किल्ड लोग हैं आसपास, राइट? क्रिएटिविटी, experience as well, yes. But interestingly, and to my panel, the very first word you heard was money. Okay, पैसा तो दो कोई. So if you have to start a startup, where will you get money from? Bank. Oh, let's forget about those keywords, angel fund, VC, vulture capitalist, and all of that. पैसे कहाँ से आने वाले हैं? Okay, how many wanted to start immediately after college? Raise your hand again. Yeah, पहले बहुत हाँकते, अब कम हो गए पैसों के नाम पे ही. Okay, where will you get the money to start your activity? Loan. Okay, how many of you think that you do not need money from someone else's pocket and still run your business? Okay. So let's look at those aspects today with experts and people who have experience in that domain. That how much do you need, when do you need, and do you need it at all or not? So I'll keep it very light, no long answers, short answers everyone, so that we cover up more topics during the whole discussion. The very first question, when do you need money?
I think the founders need money when their business is growing. I don't think the founders need money to start the business, because when you start the business, you go through the ideation process, and you come up with the plans, and you make sure that all the ducks are in a row. So you really need money when you want to scale up. Once you do the prototyping.
Sunil, when do we need money? Because you are one of the authorities who actually give out money to people as and when required.
Giving like this today.
Yes.
Okay, so good evening all. My experience, startups need money right from day one. What is day one? When you have an idea in your mind that this is a business that you want to start, you think about the next steps. As he said, the first step is maybe generating that idea, evaluating it, and then prototyping, or it is called proof of concept in technical terms. So you need to develop a product. For developing a product, a lot of people do not have that kind of money which is required. Every product needs different kind of money. So development of product also needs money. Then after you develop the product, then you have to take it to people. You have to take it to people to check whether this is going to work. So people are going to test it. Testing involved, technical testing involved in many stages. So money is required in that stage also. Once that is done, we had the earlier panel which was talking about trademark, copyright, patent, IPR. So you want to patent your ideas, that also needs money. So IPR needs money. Then, as he rightly said, the highest chunk of money is required when you are beyond this stage where you are wanting to get into go-to-market stage, or when you're wanting to go to market. So when you want to go to market, then you have if it is a product, then you have to, production requires a lot of money. You need to buy material and produce. If there are services, if it's an app development, if it is IT development. So when you move from prototyping stage to launching and then going to market, that is the time where you need high amount of money, higher than the earlier stages. And then if you want to expand further, that is the growth phase. If you want to say in simple words, that needs even more money. So the graph probably goes up in the stage, but basic amount of money goes, requirement goes right from day one.
Rushabh? Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with Sunil sir that you need money from day one. The point again is like how much money you need, and do you need money from external sources? That's the most important question that you need to understand. No, everyone kind of runs behind the funding, and there are nowadays like because startup is booming. There are fund from like day one, like seed fund, angel funds, and like all the jargons that we hear. People get a funding at ideation stage just by showing a PPT. People raise millions of dollars, right? But again, you need to understand that what kind of startup or a business you are getting into, and at what level, what kind of money is required. For example, if you're getting into something like robotics or like the drone technology and all, you need a very initial, capital to kind of build those. Technology in-house, then you go out in the market. So initial capital is requirements are very high. Wherein if you go for something like a SaaS sort of product where you build some prototype and get some initial clients to give you whatever minimum amount that if they can pay you, and that can be your initial seed fund to kind of develop your product. Or there could be something where you build something and you need you have friends and family to kind of support you in that case. So that could be another sort of funding that could be there. So yeah, I mean the money is required from day one or day zero, I would say. But at what stage, what amount you need, and from where you get is something which is very crucial and you need to understand. So not just run behind all these jargons like as Rohit sir said, but there are a lot of other alternatives where you can get some money and get going. Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yes. So we are a technology startup. So we need money from day one because we want to develop one prototype and we have to purchase some hardware components. So yes, as Rushabh sir covers, when we are a service startup, then it may be you require fund of funds after the development of your product or service or the that model. But if you are a product based company or you're a technology driven company, you require money from day one. That's from my side.
Yeah, but now that's a good one. Product versus services. Now, can you start again from that side, saying, do product-based company require money from the beginning, as we know? But do service-based company require money? And if they require, when do they require?
Okay. If we consider software as a service, so to develop the software initially does not require a lot of funds. But yes, after the development, if you want to make the marketing, you want to reach the more number of people, so more number of people can buy your services. So at that time, you require the more funds to scale up, to scale your service. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else would like to pitch in there?
Yeah. So see, of course, the product-based companies does require initial funding because you're building a product, and before you go out in the market, you need to have that kind of team to work with you. Even if it is like a software product, you need a good developers to kind of work with you. So that could be initial, or that could be alternative where you can find a good co-founders. Where where you understand. Okay, I'm good in technology. There's someone good in marketing. There's someone good in management, and how you all three can come together where you compensate on. The skills that the person has, and you can build something without having any money. And I personally feel clients money is the best money that you should look for. So get some something doing, like there is a concept of moonlighting nowadays. So you kind of look for those kind of things where you have some initial capitals earned by yourself and put that money in your startup or ideas. Try to build those things, and then I mean it might be difficult or a hard thing to do, but you have a very long term benefits on this thing when you build something of your own and then go out in the market and raise funds, rather than like raising something from day one. But again, yeah, product based companies I feel would require initial capital. Service based companies I don't think require capital to start with, or even to scale to an extent, only if they are kind of pivoting it to something which is very large sort of a thing. And if you have some unique services like we have done, and then the clients are only your biggest investor, I would say.
And the safest investor, right? Because you don't have to pay them back. So, Sunil, once you start, when a company come to you that, okay, I want some money, and because that's the most coolest thing, right? Take some money from the market so that you would be called as a funded startup. If someone companies comes to you, what do you look at it that, okay, do they even need funding, or do you guide them that, okay, this is a wrong time, you should be looking at a money from outside and you go ahead, do it on your own in the beginning?
Okay, there are two answers to this. One is from the legal compliance side. So I will come to the legal compliance side later. But initially, generally, what is seen for the benefit of all the students, I would like to tell that whenever somebody has an idea and the initial stages, like you said, a software is to be made or an app is to be made, and 2 or 3 or 4 co-founders come together, the initial funding of money is generally done by themselves, or they take it from their friends and families. So they go to their uncle, they go to their friends, and they say, I need 50,000 rupees, we have to do this. I need 2 lakh rupees, we have to do this. So generally, that kind of funding is done by the relatives or friends only at the beginning. And then later on, they once they reach a particular stage, they approach incubators. So we are an incubator, for example. Now I'll come to the legal part also, 2 in 1. So what is an incubator? Incubator, our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has a vision of making India #1 in startups in the world. So how is this possible? So there is a ministry formed which is Niti Aayog. So under Niti Aayog is running, one example I am giving you, is running a mission called Atal Incubation Mission. What is that mission? That mission has generated 60 incubators across the country, like we are one of the incubators. What do these incubators do? Startups approach them, and the incubators mentor them right from idea stage to developing prototype, proof of concept, and help them in funding also. And not just, the incubator doesn't give its own money. Where does the money come from? The government supports. So today, government has a lot of schemes where the initial funding is given by the government itself. So that's your question. So when a startup approaches us to say, give us money, we cannot just give government's money or our own money just like that. There is an evaluation that is defined. There is a committee that is defined by the compliance side, and the committee, based on their evaluation parameters, decides whether you are eligible for that money or not. So when a startup approaches us, it takes some time to evaluate whether a startup really needs money or not. Maybe some startups do not need money, or the ideas are not okay. The money is not getting into the right place. The ideas are rejected also.
All money from different sources. What is the best source of money in your view, where a student who is going to get into a startup should approach, and in a staged manner? And if you want to answer any of the previous questions, that's also good. But this case, where should they look for the first money to come in?
So when we say first money, that is typically a seed funding or pre-seed funding. These are just the jargons. But when you have your concept ready and you are looking for funding to just explore those ideas or those concepts, then I think the best people to approach are friends and family, because this round of funding generally happens on the founder and his personality and his background. It doesn't really happen based on the concept. I mean, concept is also important, but that person or the founder is also important. His profile is also important. Now, that founder could be somebody who is student, who just came out of college and who got some idea, or that founder could be somebody who got 10 years or 15 years of experience, and he got he find out some problem statements in his previous career. He know how to handle those problems, and then he came out and said that I want to just address this kind of problem. Right? So in both the cases, friends and family are the best source of funding in the initial stage. Of course, when you reach to a level wherein your concept is accepted by the market, then you can look at the private equities who are generally interested in early stage startups.
So one very important fun statement people add with friend and family is not friend and family money. It's also called as friends and families and fools. क्योंकि वो आपको देख के पैसे डालने को तैयार हो गए. They don't know whether your idea is actually a super killing idea or not. So the first money is own money. The second money is friends and families and fools. Friends and families and fools के बाद, if you want to go get more money, what is the right approach? When do your company feel that okay, or when does the investor feels that okay, this company is investable, there is a potential in this and we should invest money into this?
I think everybody feels that their concept or their idea
is the best,
is really the best idea, right? So and that confidence is required most of the time. But I think once you tested the water, once you know that your concept is really working, you have some feedback, you have some active customers who can give you good testimonials, then I think you should go out and look for the fund. And even before that, just to add on this, investor profiling is really important. Generally, investment or funding is truly based on the demand or the requirement which you see in your own businesses. In my opinion, one should do investor profiling. They should know whom to approach. They should not always go to Sequoia. Sequoia gets like thousands of proposals every day. They don't even read it, right? So you need to do a thorough investor profiling. You should know whom to approach, and you should keep in touch with those guys, even if you don't need funding. So you keep on, updating them. What is the status of your business? If you have done some partnership, just inform them. If you have acquired a new customer, just keep on informing them. Have some formal introductory meetings or follow-on meetings with them, so that whenever you need funding, you can straight away approach, and they will be up to speed in terms of the progress of your business.
So I'll take this question to Rushabh right away. That Rushabh, people say good to take money from someone to grow, but then the money is coming in different forms, and I've specifically skipped for one reason, because I will come to you for grant. But before that, to Ganesh and Rushabh, can you help people understand the difference between the debt and the equity? The important words when you take money, what do you give in return, and how important is that?
Yeah. So debt versus equity, it's a very basic thing, So debt is something, it's like a loan. You take money and you have to pay back with certain amount of returns that you commit. It can be in the form of interest, or it can be, whatever the terms that you have. Basically, that money is like a loan that you borrow some money and you have to give it back at a certain time frame, and whatever terms that you define in terms of debt. Equity is where the founder or the company gives out the percentage of the shares of the company against the investment that the investor is bringing in. So that means the investor has is a part of your company. He might take a board seat. He might be directing a lot of things later on in the company's overall strategy and so on. So basically, investor is where he is taking the risk. When you are giving equity, the investor is also taking the equal amount of risk that you are taking, because if the company fails, everyone fails. The investor is not going to get anything back. But in terms of debt, it's a very safe sort of thing for the person who is giving debt, because he's going to get his money back with certain amount of returns that are committed. And both are good and bad in sense where you need to identify where you have to take the debt and when you have to take the equity, like what is the right time to dilute your equity, because that's very important and crucial thing. I've seen a lot of startups, diluting their equity very, very early or in the very early stages, and when the company grows, they really have a very minimum amount of equity in their hand. So that sort of scenario also happens. You have to be very careful about when you want to dilute equity, how much you want to dilute, how much money you want to raise. There are a lot of things that come because money is a very serious, like though we always say money is a very serious concern. So even from the business point of view, as an entrepreneur, we are always focused on building something, that we want to build, or rather focus on product and business, but we never think of this financial aspect of this thing that and there are a lot of startups who failed because of they didn't thought through these things before. They got the wrong investors on board. The investor came and changed the entire course of the business of the startup. And we have seen so many things in public domain. There have been a lot of fights between the founders and investors happening. All this is because, like like I said, you didn't do the right profiling of the investor. You didn't know what the investor is looking for. You just because someone was giving you money, you just took it, and then then you have to kind of go through some bad experiences as well. So yeah, to summarize, that's a very basic thing, debt and equity, but when to do and when to take what is something which has to be very thoughtfully done. That's what I feel.
I'll not go into the complex methods of investing by safe notes and CCPs. We'll keep that separate. But for primary perspective, it is just A, loan which you have to pay back, or B, equity in which against you have to cut your cake of the company and give a big chunk of it to someone who's putting in money. The third one possibility is grant. So grant from you, because there are grants available from government for different kind of business which they can actually avail.
Okay. So what is a grant? Debt is something which is a loan where you get a loan, you have to pay interest. So when you're a startup running a business, paying interest out of your nose is sometimes not good. Equity, as I said, you have to cut the piece of cake and or a large piece of your cake to the investor. Grant is something which you do not need to pay back. So Government of India, like I said, has different ministries offering grants to startups, of course, based on due diligence, compliances, and evaluation. To a tune of what we have dispersed is, like, to just put a number, to the tune of 20-25 lakhs also. So there are startups who have an idea, who make a presentation, who show demonstration of the product that they have or the services that they have, and the government committee grants 20-25 lakh rupees, which the startup uses in the initial phase and does not pay back. Just a piece of information for all of you: different ministries under Government of India are now supporting startups. For example, if you are wanting to do something in agri or agri-tech or agri-business, then the Agriculture Ministry is also providing grants and running schemes for startup. So Ministry of IT and Telecom has a hub called Mighty Hub, which is also running schemes for providing grants. So different ministries, which are the core sectors and the priority areas for the country today. So what are the priority areas today? Have you all heard what could be the priority areas for India today? Will agriculture be? Will healthcare be? So there is a list. So all these are priority areas for the government, and government is providing grant in this. Now, another thing, I just attended a conference yesterday, which was a global CSR summit in Mumbai, and large organizations like Google or many other companies who are working in specific areas are also supporting startups based on their evaluation, and their support is also not in terms of debt or equity, but in terms of grant. So CSR grants are also available and used. For example, HDFC Bank is using now a lot of their CSR funds as a grant to startups based on their evaluation. So grant is money which you don't need to pay back. B, you need to qualify for the grant. C, government gives grants, different ministries give grants, and now corporates like HDFC or Google are also giving grants for different areas.
Amol, any thought on the debt, equity, or grant?
Well, I believe grant is the best.
Because you don't have to pay it.
You don't have to pay.
It's like a free money coming.
Right, but you have to qualify for that, and qualification process itself is I think very tedious kind of process.
But then there is also a constant check whether you are using that grant money for the startup or the party after the weekend of the startup, right?
Yes, true. I think you should use grant for your own business. And apart from that, equity and debt, I think for startups, equity always makes sense as against debt, because debt carries some sort of cost of capital which you have to pay back. Wherein equity can bring in some really good investors who will help you in the boardroom to strategize your plans, or to also help you to give access to the market. There could be an investor who got a lot of experience in your own domain, so they can help you to formalize all the strategies that you want to implement.
Okay, I'll take this exactly same point to Ganesh and convert this to right investor, smart money versus money, or smart investor versus investor. चाचा जी खड़े हो गए, बोले हाँ 5 करोड़ मैं दे देता हूँ, ले जाओ, वर्सेस एक बड़ा बिजनेसमैन वो बोलता है हाँ 5 करोड़ मैं भी देता हूँ, मेरे से भी ले जाओ, वर्सेस समवन हु सेइंग मैं सिर्फ 2 करोड़ दूंगा, but then what else can I add? So can you just put some light on what is a smart money versus money?
Okay. So when you start the startup, initially grants and debts are better for the founder and the whole team. But when you are at the stage where you feel that you require more money to scale up, or to increase your products or services, at that time you feel that yes, I need a investor. So as I said, there are two types of investor. If you consider, one is the Chachaji and another is the smart businessman. Okay. So if you have a guts on your product, that yes, as a founder, you know how to develop the product, And if you are 100% sure that you are able to build that product and you are able to sell and establish that product into the market successfully, then I think Chachaji is the best option, because they don't interfere in your technology and all this kind of the stuff. But yes, if you as a engineer or as an innovator, you know how to develop a product, but you don't know how to scale up, how to take that product to the market. At that time, the businessman is the right choice, because he will guide you, in every stages of that point where how you can establish your product or service to the market.
Okay, great. So one question which I'll bring back to Sunil ji, and I'll give you a precursor question to that. How many of you are thinking that you will start a startup after college, but you still have a doubt कि मम्मी पापा बोलेंगे यार बाकी everybody in your company in your college is now earning and you are burning money, you don't earn anything. There is this fear, right? मम्मी पापा का pressure that now go and do a job first, then take money. So there is a very interesting concept, and I think Sunil will be able to tell you more about it. The EIR fund. Entrepreneurs in residence. So you get some amount from government as a grant, which looks like a salary because it is coming every month for your personal expense, but you have to prove that you are working on a startup idea. In a year's time, you would be able to take your company from stage A to stage B. So at AIC, we have AIR. Right?
No, we have not done AIR. Have we done? Are there some AIRs? Very few.
Yeah.
So that is grant.
Okay, so AIC, the Atal Incubation Center, has this methodology of EIR, the entrepreneur in resident, where you get some salary. So मम्मी को दिखाने के लिए हो जाता है कि yes, I'm getting some salary, but that you can use for your time and put it into the project and get more work out of your idea and get into some stage so that you are in a position to make more money. One thing which I wanted to add, what Sunilji added about the grant, is a lot of departments and ministries today go for a matching grant. That okay, like Indian Railway. If you want to create a product for Indian Railway, you can get a grant up to 1.5 crore, provided you put 1.5 crore from your side or your investors and stuff. Total value 3 crore, and then use that money to build something for that. So a lot of ministries has come with a matching grant.
Rather, most of the funds, if I want to divide the pie of funds which are disbursed to startups, a small chunk is disbursed as grant, but the larger chunk is disbursed as matching fund.
Matching fund.
So they insist that the amount of money that the government is giving as a grant or a fund or a seed fund especially, equal amount of money or more has to be brought in by the startups from non-government sources. So that non-government sources come in, which are banks and venture capitalists and all those sources. So in the pie, the larger chunk is the 1:1 kind of a chunk.
Okay, and looking at the time, we had to finish by 4:25, but we were starting a little late. So I'll now put it back to audience. That now tell me what kind of doubt you have when you have to start a business, not only for fun, but for anything relevant and related. And I'll make sure that the answer you get from the panel. Anyone? Any questions from the audience side? You have to raise your hand so that the mic reaches out to you. So everybody is already scared that पैसे नहीं लेने हैं बाजार में, नहीं लेने हैं. Okay. Everybody is ready कि अच्छा मेरे पास आइडिया तो तैयार है या फिर मैं अभी आइडिया छोड़ता हूँ. I will look at this idea later on in life. So again, one thing which you hear very popularly from many people is as an entrepreneur, are you solving a problem? Remember one thing, you don't have to solve a problem every time. Facebook never created to solve a problem. They created a problem and then solved it. Right? So many a times, you don't have to think कि अच्छा कोई problem नहीं मिल रहा मुझे, so what can I do in a startup? If you can improve life, if you can bring something new, that's also a way of starting a business. So how many of you are still thinking that even immediately after college you will be going and starting up? Initially हमारे पास 5-6 हाथ थे, वो अब नीचे हो गए हैं. So that brings us to the end of the conversation. Just to highlight a few points and counter it. In services industry, you may not need any fund at all from someone. Like my first 2 startups, it was bootstrap. I never took anybody's money. Got money from customers. That's the best money you can use. आधा business में और आधा घर पे, and then you can build that business and sell it out. That's possible. But whenever you have to take money, always make sure you're getting a smart money. You're not getting only an investor. You're not getting only investor's wallet. You're also getting investor's brain, so that you can use that and increase your business. Any parting comments from anyone?
I'm not sure of what has been covered in the whole day. It has been a long day for the students, but I just want to inform the students that if you have good ideas, just be aware that there is a lot of support available. So those who are thinking about entrepreneurship, those who are thinking about innovation, those who are thinking about startups must definitely get into this. So there is support available in mentoring. If you need a mentor from your own sector, people are available who are not charging anything. So whatever I'm talking about is not expensive, is not cost. So there are people who mentor, there are facilities which are given to you. So facilities for, so there is, if you need a shed to prepare your prototype, there are people who are available to give you those kind of facilities. There are people who are available to invest in your businesses. There are people who are ready to give money just like a grant. So enough support, people available or government schemes available to do IPR, patents, registration. So whatever you think about, whatever is required in a startup, there is a lot of support available. And this is the right time to get into a startup if you are at all thinking about startups, because right now the government of India is supporting startups to a very great extent. All the ministries have schemes and all the ministries are wanting people to. So the situation is when I go to ministry offices, it's a reverse situation. They are asking me, sir, वो पैसा आपके पास पड़ा हुआ वो खत्म करो, वो क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो आप? 5 करोड़ रुपया आपके पास पड़ा हुआ वो क्यों नहीं दे रहे हो? 3 महीने में 5 करोड़ रुपया दीजिए, फिर हम आपको अगला 10 करोड़ रुपया देंगे. So that is the kind of situation that is there in India. So please think about your startups if you have not thought of. Approach the right agencies and take it ahead.
So I believe in revenue solves all known problems. There's a very known saying, if you focus on revenue, all problem will be solved. So whenever you're building a startup, think like a businessman also. Though you are innovator and creator, think like a businessman. From day one, think about the revenues, because even any VC or any funds will come, revenue will end of the day will end up answering about the revenues that after 2 years, what is the revenue that what is the customer. Even if you acquire like millions of customer, end of the day, everything boils down to the revenue. Because startup as an investor, they're the VCs are also businessmen. They're putting money to double or triple down their money, right? So they are not like doing a favor like government grant. They are it's not that. So you have to focus on the revenue side of the thing as well. Where while building, make sure that you start generating some revenue from your initial days, if not day one, in some days, some prototyping, something. And if you do that, everything will falls in place. All the VCs will find you. If you're making good revenue, VCs will come behind you to give you the check. There are clients who will be willing to fund you. There will be a lot of people because when you see the success, people want to put money on you, right? So if you really do the right thing with the right strategy in terms of the business and revenue, everything else falls right in place. Just focus on that one thing. That's my.
So मैं एक ही कहना चाहूँगा, बहुत सारे लोग थे जिन्होंने इनिशियली बोला था हम आफ्टर कॉलेज स्टार्ट करेंगे एंड अभी कोई नहीं है. सो मैं एक शॉर्ट में मेरे कंपनी के बारे में बताता हूँ. मैं इंजीनियरिंग पास आउट हूँ. सो जब हम फाइनल ईयर में थे तभी हमने कंपनी रजिस्टर की थी एंड जब सेकेंड ईयर में थे तब से हम लोग काम कर रहे थे ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी के ऊपर. सो ड्यूरिंग कॉलेज डेज अगर आप स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट करते हो, ठीक है, तो मैं कहूँगा वो बेस्ट टाइम है आपको इस एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप की जर्नी में आने के लिए. बिकॉज मान लो कि 1 साल आपको सीखने में भी जाता है. एक मेंटेलिटी ये भी है लोगों की, लाइक फर्स्ट आई विल गेन द एक्सपीरियंस एंड उसके बाद मैं स्टार्टअप स्टार्ट करूंगा. लेकिन उसमें ऐसा पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकता है कि जब तक आप एक्सपीरियंस गेन करो तब तक आपके ऊपर लायबिलिटी बढ़ जाए, आपकी शादी हो जाए, आपको पेरेंट्स बोले कि मुझे अभी दे दो अभी पैसे, ठीक है. बट व्हेन यू स्टार्ट द इमीडिएट आफ्टर द कॉलेज, देन वो उतने पॉसिबिलिटी है नहीं कि वो आपसे इमीडिएटली डिमांड करे. और उन मान लो 1 या 2 साल में आप ट्रायल्स एंड एरर करते हो, आप सक्सेसफुल होते हैं या फेल होते हो, तो उसका आपके लाइफ के ऊपर उतना इम्पैक्ट नहीं पड़ेगा कि आप फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाओ या इस फील्ड में ही कभी ना आओ. सो आफ्टर कॉलेज आप बेस्ट टाइम में स्टार्ट करो एंड मैं तो कहूँगा कि कॉलेज के बाद अगर स्टार्ट करते हो या आप लास्ट ईयर में भी स्टार्ट करते हो तो कॉलेज इज द बेस्ट ऑप्शन, जो आपको मेंटरिंग हो, आपको बेसिक्स इनिशियल कैपिटल कुछ हो, ठीक है, अगर आप में वो काबिलियत है, कुछ अच्छा प्रॉब्लम आप सॉल्व कर रहे हो, तो जो इनिशियल सीड मनी होता है वो कॉलेज खुद आपको दे दे। उसके बाद हम पुणे में इंक्यूबेटर्स है बहुत सारे, सो वी आर एसोसिएटेड विद 2 PCSIC एंड AIC MIT, तो वहां से आपको बेस्ट मेंटरशिप मिल सकती है। इनफैक्ट हमें कंपनी रजिस्ट्रेशन करने का आइडिया भी AIC MIT ने दिया था। सो दिस इज द बेस्ट टाइम, फंडिंग का भी इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं आएगा, ठीक है, लोग आपके साथ फिर जैसे सर ने कहा कि है आपको सपोर्ट करने, लेकिन मोस्टली अगर 3-4 साल के बाद आप स्टार्ट करते हो तो पता नहीं इतने लोग होंगे नहीं होंगे। यस
I think there are a lot of industry focused or sector focused private equities and VCs which are available nowadays. So try to approach those private equities or those VCs who are only focused on, let's say, retail. If your startup is in retail, then try to look for the private equities who are only doing investments in retail. A lot of times the large private equities have their funds who are focused on specific sector or industry. So try to approach them because they will bring in a lot of knowledge to your company. They will typically have 10-15 portfolio companies in the same domain. They will have the experts, best of the best talent available in-house, and those people will be available for you to help you to grow your startup. The additional point is make sure that your concept is not kind of reverse engineered or borrowed concept. Try to build something which is coming from your own efforts and ideas, because those concepts are appreciated at every stage. So that is my closing comment.
So very well covered. On a parting note, that validate your idea, make sure your idea is actually right. आपने कुछ किसी का मार्केट में कॉपी पेस्ट नहीं कर रखा है, and then there's a lot of support available, and anybody who has done a startup once is always willing to help others because सारे तकलीफ खुद झेल चुका होता है, so is always ready to help. So there are a lot of people who are available to help, not only for fund but also for other mentorship and guidance. With that note, I thanks. If there are any questions, do let us know. Otherwise, we'll be done with that.
Thank you, sir, for your enriching session. We request Mr. Rahul Jain, MD of Innocent Group, to felicitate Mr. Rushabh Vasa. Mr. Amol Rathi. Mr. Sunil Dhadiwal. Mr. Ganesh Thorat. Mr. Rohit Srivastwa.